Hello everybody, and welcome to the first episode of Dinosaur Days. This episode is going to be dedicated to mass extinction event theories, specifically for the dinosaurs and prehistoric reptiles of the time that aren't around anymore. With the extinction of dinosaurs, there are a couple prevalent theories, and really, having studied dinosaurs in college and everything, what I took from that is no one really knows for sure what happened exactly to cause those animals to die off. And the only evidence we have to go off of is, things we see in the rocks and everything else in the fossils, basically, which isn't a whole lot. And so, bear with me, I'm going to talk about the most popular one first, which is the asteroid impact. And the main evidence for that is the KT boundary, which is a clay layer that kind of tops off the Cretaceous deposits, and basically it's a layer of clay that is iridium rich. It's a rare radioactive element that's usually laid down in a nuclear blast or an asteroid impact, and it can also be deposited by volcanic eruptions. And so that layer in itself is not really conclusive evidence for an asteroid impact, but there are also little glassy spheres in that layer too, which are pretty indicative of asteroid impacts. And so that, along with the discovery of the buried crater off the Yucatan Peninsula of Cretaceous age, is the main evidence for the KT asteroid impact extinction theory. And don't get me wrong, it's a pretty solid theory, but there are some other ones out there too that are equally good. The main one being the Deakin Trap eruption, which, as you can see in the map slide, this is randomized. I'm kind of working off of a Chromebook, and so I don't have any control over what's happening here, but the Deakin Traps are in India, and it's a very large basalt deposit. And as you can see in this picture here, with outpourings of lava that would have caused, that amount of buildup, the theory is that there would have been a lot of toxic gas released, basically, and that amount of gas would have caused the dinosaurs to be poisoned, and climate change and all this other things leading to their extinction as well. And this theory doesn't get as much attention as it probably should, and I've heard a couple reasons for that, and one of the reasons is that the person who came up with it is female. And it's unfortunate because it's a good idea, and if it were looked into more than it has been, which it's already been looked into quite a bit by this person. She didn't just go out and say, oh yeah, but if people took it more seriously and did research more into it, maybe they'd find out that instead of just it being an asteroid impact that killed everything off, it was a combination of the two, or maybe even just the Deakin Traps that did it. Because volcanism does have a very large impact on everything globally, especially large eruptions. Small eruptions, not so much, but large eruptions definitely. In history, there was a large volcanic eruption that caused a year without a summer. And basically what that means is that it blocked out enough sunlight to where there was no hot summer months in Europe. It was just year-round winter, basically, and it caused a lot of death and crops to die and everything like that. And so this, too, is a good theory. One of the theories that I think is interesting is the theory that the dinosaurs were already on their way out, probably due to climate change, and that these things may have finished them off, but that there was some kind of disease or just climate change and the replacement of plants with flowering plants. The plants being predominant at the time were gymnosperms, such as like ferns and pine trees and things like that. You didn't really get grasses and flowering plants until later on, towards the end of the Cretaceous, where they started becoming more widespread, and some people think that had to do with it too. So really what I'm getting at with this video is no one really knows what killed off the dinosaurs. So as you can see by the picture I selected, maybe it was aliens too. I mean, we don't have a whole lot to go off of. And, obviously it wasn't aliens that killed them off, but, there's a couple of scientists who have, and it's been documented that they have discovered dinosaur fossils even in the tertiary deposits, or early tertiary deposits, after the KT boundary, and that leads some people to believe maybe dinosaurs persisted longer than we thought, and it wasn't just ecological succession taking place where mammals replaced dinosaurs, you know, which that's basically what did happen, but that dinosaurs were outcompeted by mammals, which I personally am not a fan of that idea because I don't think it's very likely, because mammals were around actually before the dinosaurs, and it was the dinosaurs who outcompeted mammals early on, and so them mammals, you know, making a comeback and fighting out dinosaurs for the same resources, especially being at the small size that they were at the time, is to me just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I mean, mammals were warm-blooded and dinosaurs were cold-blooded, or that's bad to say it that way, but mammals are endothermic and dinosaurs are ectotherms, and so some people might argue that, but back then, you know, the world was a much warmer place, and so being, you know, an endotherm or warm-blooded, however you want to say it, wasn't really that much of an advantage back then. Today, probably it would be, but back then it wasn't. It was more of a disadvantage than anything. And so, I'm not really a fan of that theory. I honestly tend to subscribe to the asteroid impact, but that's not to say, like I've already mentioned before, the Deacon Traps is a feasible idea. It's just that the asteroid has been so ingrained into our minds over the years that that's what everyone tends to assume, is that, oh, they were killed off by an asteroid. Which, like I said, maybe that's the case, but the Deacon Traps could in itself have caused enough climate change to be a problem, and or at least for dinosaurs, and like you can see in the photos, would have caused a lot of destruction too. This picture right here, the data set, was there's actually a graph attached to that was a dinosaur diversity change over, you know, the millions of years based on the fossils we have, and it shows a decline in dinosaur diversity, peaking at the early Jurassic period, or the onset of the Jurassic period, where dinosaur diversity was the most, and then it kind of drops off, and then eventually there's a low plateau where you get the Cretaceous. And I wish I would have found this, but there's another graph kind of related to that where it's just dinosaur fossil discoveries in general as you get into younger and younger rock strata, or layers of rock, and that tends to taper off too. And that's the same graph that I saw. There were a couple of dinosaur discoveries in tertiary rocks, but most likely those were reworked fossils. I mean, they could have been, and that's the most logical conclusion to make from that, but you know, dinosaurs might have persisted longer than we think. And the whole point of this video, like I've said before, is just, really, we don't know what went on that killed off the dinosaurs, and all we have is best guesses. So thank you for watching, and please subscribe. Have a great afternoon.